Welcome to Mediocre Gaming, and today we're playing Tom Clancy's The Division. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and salutations. Today we're talking about Year 3 of The Division, what we can expect, and what about Division 2? Is that coming? Let's talk about it. So yesterday on State of the Game, they talked a lot about what's happened over the last couple months and since the game has come out. They've thrown out some numbers and statistics and pointedly did not talk about the future of the game. I think what is coming up is tightly under wraps, and we're going to make some guesses and conjectures based on what's happened in the past and predict what is going to happen in the future. Now, first of all, Division 2, I don't expect that one to come out until the next generation of consoles come out. So when the PS5 and the Xbox 2, or whatever they're going to call them, come out, then I would expect the Division 2 to come out. It seems like some of the big titles are being reserved and taking a little bit longer than you normally would think they would take. Games like GTA 6, Division 2, things like that. When is the next generation coming out? I would expect 2020 to be the year that it comes out. Probably November, and that is also conjecture. They haven't even squeaked a leak about what's going on with the next generation, although I have some suspicions that certain developers already have a development kit in their repertoire so that they can start development of games, because there's nothing worse than having a console with no games to play on it. So there we go, Division 2 out of the picture for a couple years. So what are they going to do with the Division this year, let alone until Division 2 is announced? So, this month, the month of March, they are going to have global events every weekend, and that'll keep people busy until that's over. At the end of March, so beginning of April, I expect them to push out the patch for the Division, which they've already talked about, and I've already talked about, adding ways to use currencies and to get things a little bit more readily, more easily, get the best gear just a little bit easier than what it has been. As the one guy said, a sprinkling of classified gear. Now, what about beyond that? Once the majority of players, so if after 51%, over 50% of the players have either all the gear, classified gear, or just some of the gear sets, and they don't seem to be actively engaged in trying to get more classified gear, then they're going to be looking at putting out new or different content. Now, some of the things that they could do and may or may not do, and this is where the guessing comes in, they could raise the gear score limit from 256 to, say, 286. You say, well, wait, it's already 286. Well, not really, because if you look at the blueprints and if you look at the gear, it's still considered 256, and that's at the base. And then once it's maximized and optimized all the way up, then it goes up to 286. But technically, it's 256, because that's the baseline. So if they raised it up, then you would be able to have that whole 286 to whatever, 310, or whatever the top end is going to be. They can increase the primary stats on high-end gear and or exotic gear, because right now you're kind of stuck. If you have the classified gear, you can get up to 1401 on your primary stats, and it starts at 1272. Normally, the high-end gear and the exotic, they only go up to 1271, I believe. So there is a disparity between high-end gear, exotic gear, and the classified gear. So they could do that. And then you'll see a lot more classified sets that are 4-piece and doing a lot more, because there's more variation with the 4-piece sets than with the 6-piece sets. 6-piece sets are very, very particular in what you can spec into. So things like Predator's Mark, you have to have 9,000 stamina. Defense, you have to have 9,000 stamina if you have the 6-piece set. Well, if you only have the 4-piece set and you're running with, you know, say short bow knee pads, or Barrett's chest piece, or a nimble holster, or, you know, something like that, then all of a sudden the possibilities open up and you can spec into more varied things. You can make a skill build defense, or a DPS defense build. So you have that. That is a very real possibility where they up the primary stats for these other ones. And it doesn't even take that much. It's just bumping it up to the same level as the classified gear. So it would be very, very easy for them to do something like that. And the gear that you already have could be optimized. So if you already have MC gloves, which I assume you do, then you can optimize it up. Weapons can be bumped up to 286. So you have a little bit more damage, and you have a little bit more, specialized skills that come with each type of weapon. So marksman rifles, of course, have headshot damage, and assault rifles have enemy armor damage, and light machine guns damage to targets out of cover, etc. So those could be bumped up a little bit. And again, it's something that's very easy to do, but in order to make sure that everything remains somewhat balanced, it will take a little bit of work, and they will have to test it out. So it will take time to do. And hopefully they are already in the process of whatever they're doing and doing it. Now, in terms of content, they could add a new classified set, or sets. They can make some sort of classified set that's like an anti-classified set. So they could come out with, say, the Seeker set, which they were talking about a while back, and actually bring it back and make that an anti-classified set, which works really well against other classified sets. So it would be similar to the Banshee Shadow, where it is mainly for the Dark Zone only, or PvP and setups, so skirmish, last stand, where it works really well against 6-piece classified sets, where, you know, they could have it where it nullifies the bonus, or you do extra damage, an extra, 10, 15, 20% damage against 6-piece classifieds. They could do something like that. All of a sudden, it's a risk to have a 6-piece classified set, because someone else could be using a Seeker set. What else could they do? They could open up a little bit more of the Dark Zone. They could add Central Park, which would be a huge addition to the Dark Zone, or they can add more PvE free roam area, or both. Now, if they add more Dark Zone, they likely will not, and I hope they won't, add any more capacity to the player count. So right now, there can be a maximum of 24 players in the Dark Zone at any given time, and if they expand it out, I'm hoping that they won't expand it out to 60 players, because when you get 8, 10, or more players in one section at a time, there is a noticeable drop in frames and the lag, and it's not as smooth as just having, say, 2 to 4 players in a section. So they can add Dark Zone, they can add some real estate space to the free roam. They can add a new game mode to the game. Like they added Resistance, they added the Underground, they added Survival. They can add a new game mode. I think that is likely, but the time frame may be late year 3 instead of early year 3. And honestly, right now there is a saturation of activities to do. If they add new activities, it's basically going to take away from other ones. So if they add a new game mode, whatever it's going to be, it's going to detract from Underground or Survival or Last Stand or Skirmish or Resistance. It's going to take players away from playing those modes and playing these new ones. So it's a bit of a balancing act, what they're going to do with the game and how they're going to do it. And I think that they will be doing something. But what it is, only time will tell. Well, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And we'll see you next time.
Nice work there. The less organized the cleaners are, the fewer people we got getting burned alive on the streets.